Welcome to the first episode of the Filthy Casual MMA news, whatever, working title. All right. But this is Filthy Casual MMA news number one. Please bear with me. With this series, I plan to bring you a few stories during the week. Some of these stories will be about future fights. Some of these stories will be about the aftermath of past fights, usually the past weekend. Today, I have three stories for you that stood out to me, and I definitely want to get your opinions on these stories. So down in the comment section below, definitely give your opinions. Now, the first story that we're going to talk about is Isaac Dulgarian. Isaac Dulgarian was a heavy favorite. I think that he was at least a 5-1 favorite in his match against Christian Rodriguez. And it was definitely one of the more strange fights that I've ever seen. And at the end of the fight, I had it scored very firmly 28-27 in favor of Isaac Dulgarian. In the first round, Isaac Dulgarian ragdolled Christian Rodriguez. I had a lot of respect for the seriousness of Dulgarian's wrestling and the toughness of Mr. Rodriguez. In round two, I had to score 10-9, handily, a strong 10-9 in favor of Isaac Dulgarian. And then Rodriguez took it to him on the feet in round three, and it was pretty bad. So I had to score 10-8 in favor of Mr. Rodriguez for a 28-27 scorecard. Very, very strange to see two 10-8 rounds go in opposite directions. Now, probably the worst scorecard from the judges in 2024. Two of the judges scored the second round for Rodriguez when he was controlled in the wrestling for more than 4 minutes. There's only 5 minutes in the round. So the judges, I don't know what they were watching or what they were smoking, but this was definitely firmly a robbery of Mr. Isaac Dulgarian. But what really got me about this story was the claims that he made regarding a so-called cheating by Mr. Christian Rodriguez. Okay, now, this story comes from SureDog.com. And the title of the article is Isaac Dulgarian, Christian Rodriguez was lubed up at UFC Fight Night 239. Okay. So, it started out with his statement being very accurate. So I'm just going to kind of go over this here. Hey guys, I appreciate the support, man. I don't really know what happened in this fight. I don't feel like I lost this fight. As you can tell, I'm not super banged up. Round one, I scored a 10-8 across the scorecards. Round two, I had about 4 minutes and 10 seconds of control time, really ate only one significant strike, and somehow two of these judges gave him round two. And round three, obviously, I lost that round. It wasn't very optically pleasing. It is what it is. So he is conceding the fact that he got beat up pretty bad in the third round. However, what were the judges watching in round two? Now, here's the part where Dulgarian loses me. His quote here says, "One thing I did notice, though, I had to use a lot of strength and energy to keep this guy down. About 3 minutes into round one, I'm completely dry, and this guy is shining. I've grappled thousands of bodies, and I know when people are cheating. This guy was lubed up. He had lotion on or something. It is what it is, man. I can't really do anything about it." This is where Isaac, come on, guy. Come on, man. Did you get robbed? Absolutely. So are you claiming that Mr. Rodriguez just magically materialized a bottle of lotion 3 minutes into the first round? Just a bottle of lotion, he slathered himself up and nobody saw him. Come on, guy. When the referees and the officials check out the fighters in front of the cage before they enter the cage, they check their hair, they check their ears now, they're checking their skin, they're checking to make sure nothing is wrong with the gloves, that nothing's inside the shorts, to make sure that their mouthpiece is properly installed. What are you talking about? So you're going to take a whole nother human being with different genetics than you and say, well, I was dry after 3 minutes, so I wasn't really sweating like that. He should not be. Do you know that people, when they sweat, they glisten, especially light-skinned individuals? This is a really bad excuse on the part of Isaac Dulgarian, and it was very disappointing to see. That first round was some of the greatest wrestling that I've seen from any 145er. I was thoroughly impressed by round one. Obviously, we were concerned about him in his cardio going into round two. He was not as sharp, not as dominant in round two. And I didn't hear anything about lotion in round two. And where is the lotion in round three when you were getting your face drummed on? I didn't like that from Mr. Dulgarian. And Chito Vera used a very similar excuse in his loss to Sean O'Malley. There were no grappling exchanges, but you're saying he's greased up. You let him sit there at range and pick you off, shot after shot after shot, with nothing coming back in his direction for more than 3 rounds. And you're talking about he was lubed up. Shut up. Moving right along, we're going to talk about Petr Yan. Petr Yan earned a very hard-fought victory against our guy, Song Yadong. If you know, you know. Unfortunately, he suffered some pretty severe injuries during that fight, and it wasn't really immediately noticeable during the fight, but apparently he might have taken a false step. He might not have properly pivoted on his foot, on his plant foot during a kick. But whatever it is, unfortunately, an MRI confirmed that he ruptured the ACL, tore his meniscus, and he has some sort of opaque groin injury. That sounds like kicking mechanics that didn't go quite to plan. And he twisted up his connective tissue, and a rupture of the ACL. Now, you know, obviously he's not a guy that's going to be thinking about going to the NBA anytime soon. These fighters tend to come back from these injuries okay. But I really do feel bad for Yan. I was rooting against him because I was, you know, not necessarily because I dislike Petr Yan, but I was rooting for Song Yadong. And Petr Yan, he made it very clear that he still should be at the top of the 135 division. I was impressed with his performance, and now I'm even more impressed knowing that he fought with this injury during the fight. And he's saying, hey, I want to get back in the cage as soon as possible. But again, you have a ruptured ACL. You're probably going to be on the shelf for a while. So unfortunate for Petr Yan. I feel bad for the guy. Hopefully he comes back healthy, and hopefully he doesn't have to fight some up-and-comer or whatever to get back in the title picture at men's bantamweight. Our final story, we're going to talk about Anthony Whining Heart Smith. Anthony Smith is a guy that I really want to like. And I was a big fan until he insulted the intelligence of fight fans and other fighters who commented on how badly beaten he was in the fight against Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira was able to advance position on him, get into a high mount, and proceeded to literally beat the teeth out of his mouth. There were, I can't even remember how many undefended, unreturned shots that Anthony Smith took while mounted underneath Glover Teixeira. The referee did not do his job, and Anthony Smith's corner did not do his job. Did not do their job to protect the fighter. When people were genuinely concerned for his well-being, his response is, "Y'all are stupid. If anybody in my corner throws in the towel, I'm firing him." Oh, wait, so, you would rather be wheeled out in a bag on a gurney than to be able to be there for your kids and your wife. And then you're going to denigrate us for caring about you. That was pretty much the end of my fandom for Anthony Lionheart Smith. But I try to be fair, balanced, just like Fox News. He's had some pretty impressive wins. Some of those wins I was not really expecting. Definitely wasn't rooting for. But he's got these comments that he's offended by this UFC 301 fight that he has against Vitor Petrino. This story comes from MMA Mania. He says, I refuse to be the new Neil Magny. So what he means is he doesn't want to be a gatekeeper. He doesn't want to be a has-been name for a young up-and-coming fighter to build their resume on as they rise towards contendership. I got news for you. Neil Magny has less losses than you do, Anthony Smith. Why are you going at Neil Magny? Why are you trying to... You have 19 professional losses on your record. Now, 37 wins. Commendable. I don't know if I've ever seen any UFC fighter that has as many losses on their record as you do. I could be wrong. Down in the comment section below, if there's a UFC fighter with more than 19 losses, please correct me. But I don't know of any fighter that has as many losses as you do. So you're offended that these guys are calling you out because they think they can beat you. Well, why do they think they can beat you, Mr. Smith? Because fighters are beating you. It's kind of annoying to hear the whining. He says, I'm offended. Why didn't he call out someone higher ranked? Maybe because they're newer fighters who are not going to get highly ranked fighters right off the bat. They would need to beat somebody like you first to be considered. Why didn't he call out Alexander Rakic? Because Alexander Rakic has an opponent that if he beats them, he might be in the title hunt. These fighters know that he's already matched up against another fighter. So before you got this matchup with Vitor Petrino, you weren't matched up. As far as timelines goes, Rakic is going to be fighting soon. That would be a little closer to your timeline in terms of two guys who are fighting around the same time. Why didn't you call out Rakic or Volkan Oezdemir? Why didn't you call out any of those guys? Because you think you can beat me. You're not sure about the other ones, and that pisses me off. Well, whose fault is that, Mr. Smith? It's your fault. Because you lose fights. He says, I'm not done. I'm not the old wounded lion that's just pacing around waiting to be killed by the younger ones. That's not me. I refuse to be the new Neil Magny. 3 guys in 1.5 months have fought, won, and called me out, all unranked, all young guys. So if they're all unranked, why would they call out somebody ahead of you? They know they're not getting that fight. It's just really annoying. You're not the old wounded lion. Sir, you are 37-19. By my math, that is 56 professional fights. You are the old wounded lion. Yes, sir, that's what you are. And are you one of the better fighters that I've seen in the UFC? Absolutely. I may not like you very much, but it would be unfair to say that I have not been thoroughly impressed by some of your performances. And by your Lionheart display, when you could have taken the light heavyweight title off of John Jones, when he did a blatant illegal knee right into your face, when you were down on the scorecards heavy, and you didn't want to win the belt that way. Sterling. Sorry. I'm a little congested from all the BS in the air. But beyond that, you just lose too many fights. You lose too many of the big fights. Every time you're about to get a title shot, you lose. Sometimes in spectacular fashion. So it's really difficult for me. You know, I actually like Anthony Smith on the podcast with Michael Bisping. I actually really like their podcast. So if you guys want to check that out, the Believe You Me, I think the podcast is really cool. And I like Anthony Smith in the podcast. I think that he's smooth. I think he's intelligent, the whole nine. But outside of that, he just constantly puts his foot in his mouth. And it's really annoying. And what happens if Petrino beats you? Then what are you going to be offended by next, Mr. Smith? All right, so this was Filthy Casual MMA News #1. Let me know in the comment section down below what your opinion of it is. And don't hesitate to join the TSP Discord. The link will be down in the description below. And if there are some MMA topics that you would like me to cover in future episodes, I will consider it. And you might find your suggestion right here on TSP. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.